Hi everybody, it's Wayne from Inspire to Change again. Welcome to the YouTube channel, welcome back to the YouTube channel. For those of you who've seen any of the content before, welcome to those of you who are coming onto the channel for the first time. For those of you coming on for the first time, don't forget to go and hit the subscribe button, which will keep you updated of whenever there's any new content or any new videos or anything that we put on here. Today's video will be accompanied with a Spark video. We're going to be looking at communication today, and I'll go on to that a little bit more in a bit. While I'm on about content, if you go to descriptions below the videos, you will see that there's a link to the skills workbook, which is a list of all the skills, techniques, strategies that we cover in our program and our group work that we run when we're running face-to-face. So by all means, go and click on that, download the content, have a look at it. If there's anything you think that specifically sticks out to you and think, you know what, actually, I'd like to know more about that, or I'd like to know more about that skill or strategy, get in touch with us, and we can potentially have that discussion with you. Hopefully, they'll be accompanied by the videos that as we're starting to add the content, they're going to accompany each of those skills, so there might be a video for it for you to also have a look at. Which is quite fitting actually, because this is about communication. It's about putting a message across. And I suppose if we're looking at communication, that's my first question: is what does communication mean? What does communication mean to you? Is it purely about how we send and receive information? Is communication more than that? How do we communicate with each other? Is it all about what we read? Is it all about what we say? Or the other aspects of it as well? I think how important is communication with our relationships, with our partners, with our family, with our friends, with our children, with our siblings? How important is it that we communicate with them? And I suppose one of the questions that I want to ask you is, would you consider yourself to be a good communicator? Would you consider yourself to have good communication skills? And what skills are they? And when you carry out that self-assessment of skills, are all the skills that you have about how you give information, how you pass information on? Because I think one of the things that we can very often forget is about communication is actually that two-way street. So it's not always about how we put things across. Sometimes it's about how we receive. And I suppose if I've got 100 of you lined up in front of me and I said to you, how many would you like to think that if one of your loved ones, one of the people that you care about, family, friends, partners, if something had upset them or they weren't happy about something, that they feel that they could come to you and they could talk to you about that? And especially if you were at the centre of what had upset them, so maybe you've said something, you've done something that's upset them, that's angered them, how open and willing are you to that communication coming in? How do you receive that communication? And I would imagine most of you would like to think, I'd like to think they'd come to me and tell me. Okay, have a think about the past. Have a think about when there's been those situations where people have come to you and they've tried to have that conversation with you and they spoke to you. And if we think of, I like to think of that communication as a door. So do you think the way that you have reacted to them has now left that door wide open, that they feel they can come to you at any point, any time, and sort of let you know how they feel and what they think? Or do you think there's potential for ways in which you've reacted in the past that started to close that door? That's not necessarily to say you've been defensive or aggressive, but have you ever been dismissive or ignored them or just sort of fobbed them off and gone, and shown disinterest? And whether they now think or they feel that they have to tread on either, eggshells, or be careful about what they say or when they say, or that thought or feeling that, what's the point? They're not going to be interested. And how many of you have been in a situation where you've later found something out and said, well, why don't you tell me? Maybe you've got to ask yourself the question of why. So that's what I want to have a look at today, is that how we keep that two-way street. Not as much how we put ourselves across, because we'll have a look at that in a later video, how we put ourselves across in a common way, but also how we receive. And we'll ask you a question. Is there a difference between hearing and listening? And if so, what is hearing? What is listening? And whenever I run the groups, I always ask people how they've got here. And if they've got here by car, what you think about the last time you took a long trip anywhere, especially in a car. If the radio's on, or if you've got music on, or CDs on, or whatever. If you've got a trip that's a journey that's over an hour, could you tell me every single song, or if it was a radio, every single conversation that happened on that radio? The chances are you haven't, but you know they happened. You know they were there because the sound was coming out of the speakers and you heard it. Whereas if you were listening and you were tuning into it, that's where you're paying attention. And that's the difference. Have you ever been in a position where somebody's trying to talk to you and you hear the noise, you hear the voice, but you don't think that you're particularly listening? I think we've all had that, especially when somebody's talking to us about something that personally we're not interested in. It's easier to switch off, easier not to listen. So there's that element of it, of us not taking in that information. But what I want to have a look at as well is, how does it feel for that other person? How does it feel for you if you feel that you're not being listened to? If you're trying to put across a message that you feel or you think is important to you, and you get that impression that other person, those other people, are not listening. Because I imagine it's not nice. It's not nice to be ignored. So how do we show that other person that we're listening? And that's what the Spark video is about today. It's about active listening. How we can show that other person that, yes, your opinion matters. I am listening to you. And that's not just about the words. It's about how we hold ourselves, how we show interest, how we maintain eye contact, because there's a difference between if somebody's talking to you and you're like, and not bothered, or giving the impression you're not bothered, and then there's eye contact, same as I am now, hoping, even though I'm looking at the camera, and there's a balance between eye contact, and how that change can come across as aggressive. So it's about bearing all that in mind, because it's not easy. Communication isn't easy, especially that idea of receiving communication. So how do you, your body language, how do you hold yourself that makes it look like you're interested? How do you reflect back? And this is all within the Spark video. How do you reflect back? How do you ask questions? How do you clarify? How do you make that person feel that what they're saying matters? They have some value, it has some worth, and that you are listening to them. And I think that's the key bit about communication. It's about keeping that two-way street. Because the moment that two-way street stops and it becomes a one-way street, that's not effective communication. That's just give. Or for the other person, or for you, take. And it's about you both feeling that you have just as much say as each other. Okay. So have a look through the Spark video. Any questions, like I say, download the content and have a look at the skills workbook, and you can have a look from there. Thanks. Bye.